that's what a lot of people don't realize. Like, this is a global phenomena. I have a guy I interviewed who has the hospital records and he was dead an hour and 45 minutes.
When they say dead, like, that means no pulse, no brain function?
No brain function.
Yeah.
Flat EEG. But they come back saying they were more alive than they've ever been, in a place more real than this has ever felt. And there are all these commonalities to the experience, and they align all over the globe.
John Burke is the New York Times bestselling author of Imagine Heaven, which has sold over 1 million copies. You've researched over 1,000 cases of near-death experiences and how they correlate with the Bible.
The Gallup poll did a survey of America and found that 1 out of 25 Americans has had a near-death experience. So that's like 13 million. But in 2019, the European Academy of Neurology did a study across 35 countries. They reported that 10% of the population had had a near-death experience. I dove into that, and I think it's really closer to about 5% that had actually clinically died. It's really what I focus on, because if someone is near death and they have some experience, I don't know what to do with that, right? If they were actually dead, there's something verifiable there. In fact, one of the things I like to point out is a lot of the people that I interview, you can see they have scars right here. They come back with wounds to prove they went through the battle.
What got you interested in this topic? I mean, this is pretty much your life's work now in your field of expertise.
I know, which is so bizarre.
I'm sure you didn't pursue that. You didn't wake up like you're a kid. You're like, I want to be the expert in near-death experiences when I grow up.
My dad was dying of cancer. Someone gave him the very first research that coined the term near-death experience. So I was an agnostic. I've always had a very analytical mind. I've always wanted to know why. And I said, oh my gosh, like, this might be the evidence I've been looking for, that there really is a life to come. There's a God, maybe even Jesus, because so many of them were experiencing Jesus. And so that opened me up. Then I started actually studying the Bible, because so many of them experienced this God of light who was love and personal, and so many experienced Jesus. And I like to say, I don't believe everything every near-death experiencer says. The right amount of skepticism is good. I'm looking for consistency, commonalities, and what aligns with other things that have been revealed throughout history. I report on a woman in a hospital who died giving birth in London, leaves her body. She's up above the ceiling, and then she travels, and this is another commonality, place of exquisite beauty in the presence of this God of light, and he sends her back. As she's coming back, she notices on the top side of the ceiling fan a red sticker, and what it said. She's resuscitated. She's trying to tell the nurses and doctors about this amazing experience. They don't believe her. And she finally gets one nurse and says, look, I can prove it to you. Go get a ladder and look on the top side of the ceiling fan. They go, this is what it says, and they find the red sticker, and that's exactly what it said. So that got my attention. Like, that's grounding this experience in our reality. Right. When people blind from birth have a near-death experience, they can see. And they report all the same commonalities as people who were sighted talk about experiencing in their near-death experience, but they're visual perceptions. So Vicky was 22 when she died in a car accident. They rushed her to the hospital. She leaves her body, and she's up above watching. She's trying to get their attention, because she said, I'm fine. I'm right here, I'm fine. And so she realizes she's dead. She's trying to adjust to this perception called sight. And then she said, I knew where I was going. She was a believer in Jesus. She's like, I'm out of here. This is chaotic. And she goes up through the hospital, out, then this portal, black, opens up, and she goes into it. And she said she couldn't describe colors because she didn't have words for them, but she said all she could say is they were different brightnesses. And she said, then when I go into the tunnel, there's no more color. And so I guess that's what you call darkness. And this is a commonality, as many times through this, dark tunnel, and they go. And she comes out onto this place of it. Like I said, it was a garden-like setting, but come out different places. Sometimes it's like she was in the garden, and trees and flowers and birds, and a group of people coming toward her. Sometimes, like Brad, the other blind kid, he comes out on this hillside of this gorgeous valley. These tall palm trees, and trees taller than he said I'd ever imagined from what people told me.
Yeah.
And he's going up a hill. So they come to this beautiful place. Now, what Vicky interestingly said, and Brad said, two blind people, but also near-death experiencers commonly say this, is the light that they experienced was not like the light of the sun. They said this light was palpable, and it was love and life all together, and it was coming out of everything. Vicky said the light was coming out of the grass, out of the trees, out of the birds, and even out of the people coming toward her. And another commonality is that often, like Vicky, there's this welcoming committee of people who have passed on before them. So Vicky sees this group of people coming, and there's her grandmother, and there's Darlene and Diane, two childhood friends who died at 9 and 7, yet they're in their prime. Interestingly, that's another commonality. Many they seem to be about age 30. And this light coming out of them is expressing love. Again, interestingly, Daniel, a Jewish prophet who writes in about 450 to 500 BC, an angel tells him there will be the resurrection, and then the righteous will shine like the stars forever. Jesus in Matthew 13 says the same thing. Then those who are righteous will shine like the sun in their Father's kingdom forever. So all of these commonalities I found in the scriptures. It's fascinating. He's been telling us this all along. God is pursuing us all the way. And he's giving little clues and hints all along the way.
I want to ask a question that's probably not your field of expertise, but I'm just curious because of your experiences. I just interviewed Dr. Stephen Greer yesterday. He's a UFOologist.
Oh,
if he
yeah.
likes that term or not. And then I also spoke with Ken Ham, who is the founder of the Creation Museum. And they have very different perspectives on life on Earth, human life, being the only life. What is your perspective on life outside of, the God who created the universe and created all things, being limited to only creating human life? Or do you?
Well, we know that's not true because he created angels. And again, like I said, there's not just one type. There are many species, even of life forms that we know of in another dimensional realm. So one of the most well-known UFOologists who studied them the longest, he said, they want to make contact with us, but they are extra dimensional beings. So their spaceships or other things can appear, but they exist in another dimension beyond ours. But if we will go into deep meditative states and invite them in, they will come and speak through us. Well, that sounds more like demon possession.